In my last video, which seemed to be many moons ago, we were working on this 1955 Nomad, and we're going to finish that up in this video. Before we do so, let's do a quick recap of what we've done so far. We started by drilling the post. Once we had the post drilled, we used a center drill bit. Not only does this bit allow you to drill out the 16-inch hole, it also removes the excess from the post. I also used my Dremel to remove the humps from the bottom of the base. I'm sure you're familiar with these large humps where the axles go through. We need to get these as flat as possible because we're going to lower this car a little bit. I then finished it off with a file, just filing a little bit at a time, not to go too far. You could go too far with this and actually break that portion of the base right in half. Then I'll do a dry fit to make sure everything is still in place. But the car still sits way too high, so we need to take care of that. We're going to disassemble the car once again, and then we are going to file off some of the body. Now on the inside of the body, on some cars there's either a post like this or the interior itself. We're filing down those posts in order to lower that axle, and now it's completely flat. And those posts actually would keep the axles in place to the base. So now I need to come up with something to keep the axles in place. We're going to use this tubing. This is K&S tubing. We're going to slide our axles in this tubing. And here's where we left off. This is a look at the wheels and tires we're going to be using. I've cut the tubing into small sections. Now here are the axles that are included, as well as the baby moons. It's kind of why I chose these wheels. Now I'm going to dry fit the body to the base, and I'm going to mark the center of the front axle. Just use a little Sharpie, and we'll do that on both sides. Now I know where I need to glue the tube. I'm going to use some CA, sit the tube in place, and then I'm going to put the base back on the body to center it up and to allow it to dry. After a couple of minutes, I'll remove the base, and now you can see there's my new axle holder. Now I can go ahead and remove that temporary axle. To strengthen up the axle holder, I'm going to apply some more CA and then some baking soda. Next, I'll do another dry fit. This time I'll put the glass in place, as well as the interior, followed by the base. I want to check the front. Looks good. Everything is closing as it should. It's all the way down. Now I need to mark for those rear axles, because we're going to do the same thing. Apply some CA glue, slide the axle into place, and then we'll put the base back on to center everything up. And I'll shoot it with some activator to speed up the drying process, which essentially makes it instant. We'll remove the base, and just like the front, we can remove the temporary axle. Now it's time for the paint. This is where everything gets really interesting. Now I'm using a water-based paint, and I use a black base coat and follow it up with a Pearlized purple. Should look very cool in the end. And actually it doesn't look too bad. It looks really good actually. But I noticed some spots in the body I didn't care for. Not in the paint, but the actual body. So I stripped the whole thing down and then began wet sanding. I did lightly sand this car, but I didn't do a deep wet sand. I also wanted to enhance some of the details, like the doors, the hood, everything else, which once I had the paint on, you lost some of that definition. So I went through all the lines, scribed it with a dental pick, and then we went ahead and repainted it once again. Black base coat and the Pearlized purple. This time it looks even better. Now notice I'm not painting the very top of the car too much because I'm going to paint that a different color, actually a pearlized white. So I tape everything off, and I'm going to paint the entire top section, the A, B, and C pillars, this pearlized white. While that's drying, I'm also going to paint the rims this pearlized white as well. They come naturally like a silver. We're just going to paint them just like we do the car. Now it's time to remove that masking tape. And speaking of masking tape, I've got a few questions regarding masking tape. A lot of people have asked me, how do you keep the car from the paint peeling with the masking tape? Well, there's a couple things. If you didn't properly prep the body, that could cause it. But also, if you are using blue or green painter's tape, it will definitely cause it. Pick up some of the Tamiya masking tape. It does wonders. You get no bleeding and it does not take the paint off. Now, it is on the pricey side, but you kind of get what you pay for. If you're interested in it, I will leave some links. They're located below the video in the description, and I'll have those for everything I use in this video. And to my surprise, the paint looks great. Water-based paint, I've never really used it, but I love it. But I don't like a couple things. I should have just painted the very top of the car, the white, and there's one other thing. It's the trim. The chrome trim that they have on the car is just so unproportionate to the rest of the car that I don't like it. And unfortunately, this means breaking out the Dremel once again. And I'm just using one of the basic sanding drums that comes with every Dremel or every rotary tool known to man. After that, I follow up with some sanding sticks. These have a fine and a coarse side. Just going back and forth, smoothing it as best I can, and it turns out fairly smooth. Now, before I start wet sanding to finish off that body, I need to redefine those doors. I lost some of that detail when I removed that trim with the Dremel, so I'm taking a little saw blade, this is for an X-Acto, and redefining those door lines like we did with the dental pick. Next, I prime and I wet sand the entire body. After that's complete, I repaint the casting, this time only painting the very top. Once we're done, we paint in some small details. We use the chrome Motolo for all of the chrome, and then I paint the taillights. We even paint the wipers. We paint some turn signals up front, as well as give the grille a little bit more definition by using this panel line accent. It's like a black wash. And now we can install the wheels. I did remove some material from the interior in order for those wheels to fit. I did not get that on camera. Now we will put the little pins that hold the axles in place, glue those on, and then we can glue on our baby moons. Now, assembly on this is a little bit different than most castings. I have to first install the wheels and tires onto the interior as well as the body of the car. Then I can put the glass in, the interior with the rear wheels already on there, and then last, the base. And that's going to pretty much wrap this up. I'm sure some of the purists will absolutely hate this. If you're a big-time Hot Wheels collector, I mean, it was a cool casting from the get-go. But I had somebody that wanted a Nomad as a custom. They wanted it purple, so it had to be sacrificed. And I think it looks much cooler with the lower stance. And I didn't lower it any further because I wanted it to be able to roll and those baby moons to still be seen. I'd like to take this time to thank all my patrons. There's not a lot of you left. I have not been here for like 6 months. I don't blame you. But thanks again for everyone that supports the channel. Also, if you have any questions or comments, post those below. And as always, thanks for watching. Typically with the Hot Wheels projects, I use a Loctite gel glue. But in today's project, I'm trying out some new product brought to you by Starbond. They have a variety of different products, thicknesses, you name it. I've used their products a lot in woodworking. This is the first time I've used them on Hot Wheels. For the axles, we use the thick. For the baby moons or the hubcaps, we're using the medium. They also offer a medium thick, which is black, and a thin. Now, I haven't tried the medium thick or the thin yet on this project, but I have used the thin on wood turning, and I've used the thick on some picture frames. In addition to 2 caps, you also get a pack of these applicators with each bottle. These are really handy for tight spaces. I've actually used these type of applicators for gluing up RC tires, and they are awesome. If you might be interested in the Starbond product, be sure to check out the links. They're located below the video in the description. Now, full disclosure, Starbond did reach out and offer these samples, but I've already been using them in woodworking. I typically get them from Woodcraft.